The Big Bunny and the Easter Eggs, written by Stephen Kroll, illustrated by Janet Stevens, published by Holiday House, New York, copyright 1982. Hello again, boys and girls. Mr. Anderson here, hoping that you had a great Easter weekend. I know we sure did. Even though we couldn't be together with our families over Easter in person, we still got to see them through Snapchat and FaceTime. We got to see what they were doing, and my three grandchildren had a lot of fun having an indoor Easter egg hunt. Yeah, they had snow over where they live too, and so their Easter bunny brought their candy and their eggs and hid them all around the house. So that was fun watching them. And maybe you did that too. But did you ever wonder, how did looking for Easter eggs, how did that turn into a tradition at Easter time? Well, I have a story for you. Now, it's not a true story, it's make-believe, but it is a fun story that tries to explain how the first Easter egg hunt got started. I hope you enjoy it. It's called The Big Bunny and the Easter Eggs. Wilbur was very big and very tall. He had great big ears and great big feet. And that is why he was chosen to be the Easter Bunny. He was strong enough to carry lots of baskets of Easter eggs. His legs were long enough for him to cross a road in a single hop. And because he delivered his eggs the night before Easter, he never had to worry about being seen. Now, everybody knows you're not supposed to see the Easter Bunny. Why, this Easter, Wilbur had done all of his work early. He'd woven lots of new wicker baskets. He'd dyed the Easter eggs and painted them with pretty designs. He made lots of jelly beans and chocolate candy. Everything was ready to deliver. Only on Easter Eve, Wilbur got sick. His head was stuffed up. His nose was runny. His throat was sore. And he had a fever. His eyes were red and his ears hurt. Wilbur just lay on his bed and groaned. Ugh. Who was going to deliver the Easter baskets? Hours went by. It was getting very late. Wilbur's rabbit friends came and they banged on his door. "Wilbur!" shouted Hector. "Wilbur, you've got to get going!" "Wilbur!" shouted Francine. "Wilbur, it's after midnight!" "Wilbur!" shouted Charles and Henrietta. "Wilbur, if you don't go soon, the children won't have any Easter eggs." "I know," moaned Wilbur, "but I can't get up. I'm too sick." Wilbur's friends banged on the door some more. But Wilbur felt too awful to listen. He just took some more medicine, rolled over, and fell back to sleep. Charles and Henrietta, they talked things over with Hector and Francine. Something had to be done. If Wilbur wasn't going to deliver the Easter eggs, well, they would have to deliver them for him. Hector and Francine loaded themselves up with Easter baskets. Charles and Henrietta did the same. The baskets were so heavy they could hardly walk. And I don't know if you can see it, boys and girls, but when they're trying to lift those heavy baskets, do you see what's happening to some of the eggs? They're falling out, and they're rolling all over the ground. Well, the four of them, they struggled through the woods. "Hector," said Francine, "Hector, I can hardly see." That's okay," said Hector. "Just try to follow me, Francine." And at that very moment, Francine bumped into Hector, and Charles bumped into Henrietta. Dozens of Easter baskets, well, they crashed to the ground. Broken eggs were everywhere. "I think," said Charles, "I think we have to come up with a different idea." And as you can see, they lost a lot of those eggs out of the basket, and they're all over the ground. He and Henrietta, they went to get her red wagon. Hector and Francine helped them load it with Easter baskets, and when it was piled high, all four of them pulled the wagon out to the road. Suddenly, the wagon, well, it hit a big rock and turned over. The Easter baskets were scattered everywhere. "I don't think we can do this," said Hector. "Yeah, soon it will be morning," said Charles. "Oh, we have to make Wilbur get up," said Henrietta. When his four rabbit friends got back to his burrow, Wilbur was still asleep. As they pounded on his door again, he opened one eye. "Wilbur!" shouted Charles. "Wilbur! You have to deliver the eggs yourself." "Wilbur!" shouted Francine. "Wilbur! There isn't much time left." Wilbur, he lay in bed grumbling. He blew his nose, and he coughed. Hector and Francine ran into the burrow, and they dumped Wilbur right onto the floor. "All right," he said. "All right, I'm coming." He put on his earmuffs, his scarf, and his favorite jacket to make sure that he kept warm. He put an ice pack on his head, a nice big handkerchief in his pocket, and tucked a hot water bottle under his arm. "Hurry!" his friend shouted. "Hurry, Wilbur!" Wilbur, he shuffled to the door. I'm gonna do this because it's my duty," he said. "But you're gonna have to help me." "Why, of course," said Hector. "Certainly," said Francine. "We're your friends," said Charles and Henrietta. Together, they helped Wilbur load himself up with Easter baskets. In a moment, there were baskets up and down his legs and around his ears. Finally, he was ready. Wilbur struggled just to get out the door and into the woods, with his friends pulling the red wagon behind him. He knew he'd have to hurry because it was almost daylight. But his joints ached, his head hurt, his nose was running, and his cough was getting worse. He thumped up to the first house. Everyone was fast asleep. He left 2 baskets of eggs right on the front doorstep. So far, so good. At the next house, he crept inside. He left a basket by a little boy's bed. But when he got outside, the sun was rising, and a paper boy was bicycling into the driveway. Wilbur froze. He was much too tired to run. The boy was sure to see him. At that moment, Francine jumped up, grabbed the newspaper out of the boy's hands, and she tossed it right over to Hector. And the two of them thumped off across the yard. "Hey!" yelled the boy. "Come back with that newspaper!" And he ran after Hector and Francine, allowing plenty of time for Wilbur to escape. When the group was back together and Wilbur had caught his breath, he thanked Hector and Francine for saving him. But before he knew it, he was in trouble again. 3 houses later, he was leaving a little girl's room when he had to sneeze. He reached for his handkerchief, but not in time to prevent a huge achoo! The little girl, well, she sat up. Wilbur dove under the bed. His ears and his feet stuck out. Any second he'd be seen. Then Charles and Henrietta pulled the covers over the little girl's head. Wilbur jumped up and ran out of the house. Whew, that had been close. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but look what's happening to many of the Easter eggs. They're falling all over the place out of the baskets. They're on the floor, probably rolling under her bed. For the rest of the time that it took to deliver those Easter eggs, Wilbur was always in danger of being seen. He hid behind trees, he dove into bushes, but his friends, well, they had to keep saving him. Finally, all of the eggs were delivered. Wilbur was so tired, he fell asleep. His friends had to pull him home in the Red Wagon. Now, did you see that Easter basket? I don't know how it got up on that tree branch. And look at the ones underneath the trees, kind of hiding there. When the children, when they started to looking for their Easter baskets, they found them under bushes, on fence posts, and hanging from trees. It was the strangest Easter they'd ever had. But they didn't mind. Easter had never been so much fun. You see, they are having an Easter egg hunt. One little girl in the back here is finding a basket over by some bushes. There's another one hanging up in a tree here. And that little boy sees it. Look what the little robin found. One of those is her egg, that little blue egg. But that yellow one, that's not a robin egg. Oh, yeah, and this little girl found a chocolate bunny. Wish I had one of those. Oh, Wilbur. He finally got home, and he got to go to sleep. Hope he feels better next year.